Welcome to today's presentation. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. My name is Katie Lashy, and I'll be taking you through an overview of Updox and our partnership with Amazing Charts. You've probably noticed that the phone lines have been muted as we're recording today's event. We'll go ahead and distribute that recording as well as the presentation slides to all registrants after the event. You are able to ask questions using the questions section on your GoToWebinar panel, and we'll get through as many of those as we can at the end of today's presentation. So giving you a bit of background, what's Updox? We hear that a lot. So some Amazing Charts users know us because we're your portal solution for meaningful use. Some of you know us because we're the faxing solution for Amazing Charts. Just a little bit of background about where we started and what we're all about. We began about 8 years ago thanks to a doctor named Andy Barbash who was frustrated with the communication solutions available to physicians. The rest of the world had moved forward with technology. Their day-to-day business got a lot easier thanks to email. But for the medical world, you were still held to HIPAA requirements. So you continued on with paper fax machines and scanning it in, and you were forced to digitize your chart. But some of those kind of ancillary pieces of your day-to-day are still very much stuck in a paper-based world. So he was frustrated by that, and from there we've gone from being the integrated electronic faxing solution that solved that very specific problem to a full-scale communication suite where we help independent physicians communicate with other physicians, pharmacists electronically and HIPAA compliant, and also engage their patients with really fun solutions like we do the patient portal for meaningful use, and we have some additional solutions we'll talk about today that are kind of available beyond just the meaningful use component. We do integrated appointment reminders by phone, text, and email. We do targeted notifications, which kind of span across both physician communication and patient engagement. So we have all of these great resources and tools to help independent physicians engage with their provider networks as well as their patients in a HIPAA compliant way. And we're able to become your single source for both patient and provider communication in that way. We currently help more than 40,000 providers, and we have more than 250,000 users, growing every day, of course. We've been able to integrate with more than 70 different EMRs, and through those integrations, we're able to service more than 50 million patients, which accounts for about 18% of the U.S. population. So we've gotten our start 8 years ago. And fortunately, Amazing Charts was one of those very first integrations. So we initially were just a faxing application. We became their portal application. In 2015, we actually became the free portal solution as far as meaningful use goes. So just the ability to send and receive with patients and direct secure email with other providers. So through those relationships and that history, we've really gotten the chance to work closely with Amazing Charts users, understand their day-to-day, and lessen their load when it comes to some of the administrative burdens and issues they face. So that was a lot of talk about the requirements from a meaningful use perspective. That's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the solutions that we are able to offer. As your partner, in addition to keeping you compliant and keeping those reimbursements as high as possible, we also work really hard to help your practice run more efficiently. We're able to do that thanks to solutions like our integrated fax and document management, which help cut the time and costs associated with a paper-based or a non-integrated e-fax solution. We offer online scheduling to cut short the back and forth phone tag of scheduling by phone, as well as online forms to get rid of the paperwork that you usually greet your patients with when they walk into the waiting room, and then the data entry that you have to do after they leave. We also offer portal payments and an in-office credit card swiper, which is great for high deductible payment plans, credit card on file, charging for no-shows, making it easier so that you're not chasing balances due with your patient base. And then we offer phone, text, and email appointment reminders that read the Amazing Chart schedule in real time to help you keep your schedule full and see a no-show coming so that you're able to backfill that appointment as needed without having to spend an hour or two on the phone calling those patients. On-demand messaging, again, phone, text, and email, and what you're able to do, actually you can send to the portal through that too, but what you're able to do is grab lists of patients or contacts and send very specific messages through those mediums using our blast notification. So where do you access all of these great resources? Right within your dashboard inside of Amazing Charts, there's a little secure button with a world and a lock and an email. What that's going to launch for you is the Updox Universal Inbox, which is going to be kind of a one-stop shopping place for all of the different communications that we manage for you. So super simple, and we wrap really easily into your Amazing Charts workflow. Additionally, what's cool about Updox is that we're a web-based application. So if you're not in the practice that day, and you just wanted to get some administrative things done, maybe you're working from home, maybe you're checking into something while on vacation, we're also a web-based application so that you have access to your faxes, portal messages, and schedule anywhere with an internet connection if you just go to updox.com and log in. So either way, secure button launches our window, or just go right to updox.com and log in. So super easy to get involved there. Now, as a partner, we're constantly challenging ourselves to align with your primary goals. And what we've heard is that obviously improving care provided to patients is chief, but it's also an important consideration for any business to maintain a budget and cut unnecessary costs wherever possible. And technology can be super terrific when you're trying to streamline processes, but there's absolutely a threshold where you have too many digital systems in place that aren't speaking to one another, and rather than going in the direction of efficiency, you actually head back in the other direction because you have 3-point solutions to solve a workflow. What Updox tries to do is level the playing field for independent physicians so that they can operate like a larger practice with a single partner that does a few different things for them that really, really simplify their day and help them boost revenue. At the end of the day, we absolutely understand that running a practice is complicated. You're greeting patients as they're walking in, you're checking them out, you're administering care, you're keeping up with the fax machine, you are trying to execute the referral loop, whether you're on the referring end or the referred end. So all of these things going on, and staying compliant all along the way with everything that's changing with government requirements. So we absolutely understand how complicated that can be. And we also understand that most of the practices that we work with within Amazing Charts are operating with a skeleton crew. So you have typically a care provider, an office manager, and maybe a nurse. So typically 5 or fewer users is what we see across the base. So you don't have necessarily a person dedicated for each of those things. What you have instead is a handful of people doing 3 to 4 things each, wearing a multitude of hats. So what we help you do is take those, take the staff that you have in your practice and help them work more efficiently, and really help their work lives seem smoother for them too. The 2 kind of buckets that we're able to service for Amazing Charts customers are around patient engagement and practice optimization. So from an engagement perspective, we have the reminders, we have blast notifications, we have payments, care management is a really great use case for those tools that we have available. We also have self-scheduling and forms through the portal. From a practice optimization standpoint, the portal absolutely plays in here too, because as one of our power users, Carrie Jewett, would say, she'd take 1 portal user over 10 non-portal users any day, just because other way around. 10 portal users administratively are easier than 1 non-portal user for her practice, because if you really get your portal set up and cranking properly, you have patients sending and receiving messages, requesting appointments, and all of that chasing that you're doing, or for payments even, kind of goes away. So those patient engagement solutions are nice for the relationships and the care management, but they also lend to an optimized practice workflow. In addition to that, we help digitize the referral process and care coordination with our faxing and direct secure email. Our web-based application is a really great secure way to communicate inter-office as well, so secure messaging between users, and provides you with remote clinic access so that you're able to access your faxes and schedule when you're on the go. Again, always in a HIPAA compliant way, as we're held to the same standards as you. The solution specifically that we're going to walk through today will be our digital faxing and document management solution, which allows you to send and receive messages, edit them, send them into the chart, send them out as a fax. We'll also talk through the direct secure email and where those messages would arrive and where you can send them to, in addition to just sending from Amazing Charts. And then from patient engagement, we'll speak about our targeted messaging and reminders and the patient portal. Now, when you hit that secure button inside of Amazing Charts, or if you go to updox.com and log in, what you'll find is the Updox Universal Inbox. And this is going to be structured intentionally a lot like an email inbox, where your newer messages are on top, your older messages are down below, and they're even color-coded to tell you what type of message it is. So you could have drag and dropped files because you can drag it right in from the desktop. You can have form submissions coming from the portal. You can have faxes coming in, printed files going out. So all of these things kind of cataloged here. And by default, the newer ones will be on top, the older ones will be down below. And you have an inbox, a sent, and an archive. So again, intentionally designed to mimic the way that your email works to keep it user-friendly. Now, at any point in time, you're also able to filter by the types of documents that you want to look at. So if you're just parsing through messages from the portal, for instance, or you just wanted to look at faxes for the moment, while you have the ability to see them all here, you could also filter and just look at those specific things. The first kind of workflow we're going to talk through is our integrated electronic fax and document management. So using this workflow, you're able to review, split, and combine pages, annotate and sign using our editor, fax and file, and even send to the portal if you needed to. And again, as with all of our solutions, it's web-based, so there's no hardware, software, or IT support required. From a steps perspective, faxing with Updox, you would log into Updox, review the fax, decide which pages you need, edit or sign it if you need to, and then you're able to send it right to the chart, send it out as a fax, send it to the portal, or choose any 2 or 3 of those actions all at the same time. And when you think about that compared to what you're doing in a paper-based world today, where you're picking something up off the fax machine, discarding the cover sheet, routing it around the office for whatever signature you need, scanning it into the computer, then hopping into Amazing Charts and going to the Imported Items tab within that specific patient's chart, all in order to pull it in, the workflows are definitely simpler within Updox. Now, in a digital workspace too, if you had received a fax and you wanted to send it back out and you wanted to have a copy of that having happened go to the chart too, with a paper-based world, you would receive the fax, send it out, wait for the transmission report, scan it into your computer, and then put it into the chart. So with Updox, you literally receive the fax, send it to the chart, fax it out at the same time, and the little transmission report follows it to the chart. So realistically, 3 steps versus 9 in a paper-based world. Taking a look at that a little bit more slowly, a little more visually, I could look at my Updox inbox, I could filter to just see my faxes, and you'll notice I have a thumbnail preview for each page within the fax that I'm able to mouse to like auto zoom over it and see what it is. I can then pick and choose my pages and send, or and let me show you that. So I would choose my pages using the little check boxes below, which is nice because if I don't want to bring a cover sheet into the chart, or if I get 2 separate faxes that are going to the same place, these little check boxes allow me to either remove pages or combine items that might have come in separately. So I'd pick and choose my pages, I'd hit send item, and I'd either send it to the chart or fax it back out. Now, if I had a need to edit that document prior to that, I have a full-scale editor that I can get to just by clicking on the thumbnail preview, and I'm able to freehand draw on the document, I can erase or redact, I'm able to highlight, I can sign, I can time and date stamp, and we also have a little checkbox there because we kind of try to think through what you would do if you had a piece of paper in front of you, and a lot of what you do is forms, so the checkbox definitely comes in handy. But I think the most popular feature inside of this page is definitely that one-click signature, because a provider who passes back and forth between the hospital and the practice, for instance, would be able to electronically sign off on things even if they weren't sitting in front of you. Or if you wanted to designate certain faxes for their review, they can log in, look at the things that you sent to them, to like click to open, click to sign and save, and then kick it back to you to file into the chart. So doctors definitely appreciate the ability to sign electronically that way. Now you also have the ability to, end quote, sign off before filing to the chart, but we'll get there in a minute. So when I'm sending into the imported items section, our sending screen mimics the fields that you would need to fill out if you were uploading a document to imported items. So we'll have a title, We'll have a category which map to your imported items subcategories. If I'm not the doctor, I'm able to notify the doctor, and what that's going to do is create an inbox message for the doctor inside of their amazing charts, and it'll also send the document as a non-signed off document to the imported item section at that time. Or if I am the doctor, I'm able to sign off on the document while sending just by checking that box. So that sign off checkbox is only going to appear if I am a signer inside of Amazing Charts. Now, one thing that's nice about our sending screen is that those thumbnail previews that you see on the inbox that you could mouse over and kind of see what it is, they also follow you to the sending screen. So if you're filing 100 documents per day and you forget the date of birth or the date of the lab draw of the thing that you're filing, rather than having to back up and look again, you can zoom in down there on those attachments and remind yourself to add that where necessary in this section. So a really nice little cheat sheet down there for you. Now, if I needed to send this out as a fax or send it to the portal at the same time, this search for additional contacts or user section is going to be really helpful to complete more than one action at a time. So if I were to type in a fax number, for instance, it would pop open a fax sending screen where I'm able to fill in this information. So we include out of the box cover sheets for all faxes. That'll include your practice name, fax number, name and number of the place you're faxing to, and then you can put in a subject line. You can have multiple cover sheets if you had different departments or locations. And then you also have the concept of like a note section. So if you needed to type a note, call the office with questions, or please call this patient when it's filled, something like that, you have the ability to type that note in down there. And if you find that you're typing the same note over and over again, you can even create a template for it so that you can use that little custom note on the cover sheet as needed when sending it out. So anything that we can do to save you steps along the way, we'll absolutely try to include that into the application for you. Now, if I needed to fax two places, you'll notice that the search for patient, contact, or user field is still showing in the top right corner because I could add a different fax number and have its own cover sheet and actually fax two places at the same time. So what happens when a fax fails? So in a fax-based world, it happens. Maybe the practice you're faxing is still on a paper fax, so their fax machine is tied up with a big document for 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe their fax machine is offline because it's hardware, and hardware can be unreliable at times. Whatever the case, if a fax fails for any reason, we are going to send you a proactive fax failed notification that will arrive right at the top of your inbox. It'll include your original attachments, the person that you had sent it to, and it'll tell you the reason that it failed as well. So we do try 3 to 5 times per industry standard to get the document out as a fax, but if it fails, we let you know about it, we put it right in front of you, and we make it really easy for you to send it again. Now, there's another situation beyond fax failures that we hear a lot too, and that's when you send something as a fax and then you don't hear anything, and then 3 days later they say they misplaced it and ask you to send it again. Now, in a paper-based world, that would mean redoing all of the work that you had done the first time to compile that fax together. But what's cool about Updox is that it's searchable by contact name or number that you sent it to or even day that you sent it. You can find that document that you sent and with a few quick clicks, resend it without having to redo the work. So not only are you notified proactively of failures, but you also have a running list of any fax you sent that's really easy to find again right inside of your sent box. So from a numbers perspective, how that breaks down to a really easy workflow. It sounds great, but what's the hard cost associated with staying the course on what you're doing? As we often find that it's not that practices are wondering whether or not Updox is a fit. It's more wondering if they should just stay the course with where they are on paper. From a numbers perspective, if you consider an $80 toner cartridge for every 5,000 pages, or a $30 fax line on a monthly basis, or $50 for a case of paper for every 5,000 pages. From a hard dollars perspective, that comes out to about $155 in supplies per 5,000 pages. And when you think about the time spent on that, if a practice is super efficient in their paper process and it's taking them 2.5 minutes to manage each fax that comes through, for every 5,000 pages, you're dedicating 55 staff hours just to managing the paper with your fax process. Whereas going digital with those considerations for time and cost can save your practice as much as $7,000 per month. So definitely a great financial impact in addition to the quality of life impact for your staff on a day-to-day basis by moving to this digital fax solution. The next feature I wanted to speak about and kind of the workflow as it applies to your practice is patient messaging and reminders. So what this feature seeks to do is eliminate your no-show rate, reduce it by 30% is what we aim to do right off the bat. We free up staff time spent manually reminding if you have someone dedicated to that today. We help you backfill those canceled appointment slots because you see them coming. And we also help engage patients in their care by actually getting them to the practice to see you using this solution. From a numbers perspective, we found that in a recent study, a typical panel of 100 appointments, a typical practice that has 100 appointments per week, so that would be 20 per day for 5 days, a typical single provider practice from what we speak to, is going to experience 7 no-shows each week. And if you consider a $90 reimbursement and a $20 copay, you'll have about $115 in lost revenue per appointment, which translates to $805 weekly, almost $42,000 annually. So what Updox seeks to do is reduce your no-shows by as much as 30%, which ends up putting another $12,500 back into your practice budget on an annual basis. So just kind of quantifying not only the frustration with a no-show, if you are experiencing a lot of them and you're not collecting those copays, that's what this kind of rolls into. Our reminder solution is super easy to configure. Essentially, you select the number of reminders you want to send, and each user would be able to send up to 3 reminders per appointment for the same cost, so that's a big differentiator. And then you choose the time frame when you want it to go out. And this is the screen of how to kind of build that out. So you would select email, phone call, or text message, and then you would select the time frame when you want it to be delivered. From a phone perspective, we have the ability to do human voice or computer voice. You're also able to use our out-of-the-box templates when it comes to email, text, and phone, or you can create your own if you'd like. We offer human voice support if you wanted to record your doctor's names in a human voice as well. We support foreign languages if you needed it recorded in a foreign language. By the way, we also have Spanish kind of out of the box pre-recorded for you too. And then we can support multiple locations. So if you wanted to have reminders go out by location, we can support that as well. Additionally, kind of along the way, the things we've been able to improve upon, we can now block out nights and weekends for reminders. We can filter out same-day appointments so that they're only getting the first reminder. They're not getting 3 reminders 2 times, essentially. And if you wanted to allow patients to confirm, cancel, or call the office, you have the ability to kind of toggle that. So some practices didn't like the idea of offering a cancellation option. Some practices didn't want the patient calling the office. Some just wanted a confirm option. So you have the ability to kind of turn those features on and off to make sure you're tailoring it to what your practice wants to do. You're also able to type in the message and call yourself or review the text so that you can see what your patient's going to experience, because I know that's a big concern for practices too. They want to know what the patient's going to be seeing or hearing. When typing these messages out, this is just an example of the appointment type or calendar functionality. So if you wanted different reminders by appointment type, we're able to accommodate that as well. If you wanted different appointments by location, we can do that for you too. As these reminders are going out, if a patient cancels the appointment, you'll receive a cancellation notice right at the top of your inbox. It'll let you know that the patient canceled, when the appointment was. It'll also pull it from the Amazing Chart schedule at that time. So you have a notice in front of you to give them a call to reschedule, and then you also have it pulled from your calendar so that if someone calls looking for an appointment, you see that availability. You'll also be able to check into the reminders dashboard, which is going to be a running tally of all of the appointments on your schedule, what reminders have gone out, and what the response actions have been. So if you wanted to look at cancellations from last week at any point in time, you'd be able to zero in on that too. What's cool about this dashboard as well, if you're using Amazing Charts within the practice and you're not in the practice that day, but you're curious what the schedule looks like the following day, or someone asks you a question about your schedule, you're able to log into Updox and hop into the reminders dashboard and actually have visibility into the practice schedule on the go as well. So kind of an added benefit there. In addition to looking individually at the appointments, we are also going to report on them on a larger scale. So if you wanted to get a feel for how many cancellations you have in a typical 14-day period, for instance, to set the expectation for a patient that's trying to be squeezed in, you would be able to tell them, I typically see 7 cancellations a week, so I'm sure we'll be able to get you in. That type of a workflow would be made possible by this reporting feature. And then the other side of the coin for messaging, so we can tie to your schedule, we can send those out automatically, but what if you had a message that you needed to get out the door that was not schedule specific? So if you were trying to boost attendance at an immunization clinic, if you were trying to send a message to patients who had canceled or no-showed to appointments to get them back on the schedule, even going beyond patients, if you wanted to give your referral network a warm note each month thanking them for their business and trying to stay front of mind. Targeted notifications are really awesome for all of those things, whether it's patient relationships or provider network relationships. You can choose by phone, text, or email when sending to patients or contacts. For patients, you could also do blast patient portal messages as well. And when you're designing these, you can kind of write them on the fly and choose your list, or you could even design a templates library if you're sending a message over and over again, so again, you don't have to rekey that message. There's easy segmentation of the patients too, so what we've seen some users do is say, any patient with a birthday this month, send them this message, and they can set that up to go out on a recurring basis. Or they could create a message that they send each Monday thanking last week's appointments for coming into the practice. So those types of things would be easy to do using the customizable templates and the segmentation of the patient list. When you're sending the message, essentially you select your method, you key in your message or select your template, you select the list that you want to send it to, which can be one of our out-of-the-box ones or one of the ones that you custom created, and then you send it out the door. From a custom list perspective, if you wanted to grab those 5 no-shows from last week or cancellations, you would hop into the custom list builder and just type in the patient's names and create a no-show week of June 20th type list and add patients to that list, and then you can send that message out to them. From a reporting perspective, we're going to give you the same thing as we do for reminders, where we tell you what messages have gone out and what the outcome has been as far as delivery goes. And from a revenue perspective, probably the 2 most common use cases for Blast would be getting no-shows or cancellations back on the calendar. So from a return on investment perspective, if even one patient shows up or schedules a follow-up appointment because you had sent this notice that otherwise wouldn't have, that would be a 3 times investment return for Blast from that very specific singular use case. But from a larger perspective, we've also seen it used for immunization. So thinking about a 3,000 patient physician panel, if you're collecting $30 in reimbursements for each flu shot administered, and we can increase the amount of, or the percentage of patients that actually come to the office for that by 10%, we could also give you another $9,000 in annual revenue, again, from that very specific use case. And that's even beyond just the warm and fuzzy patient relationship use cases of wishing them happy birthdays, pointing them to an online survey, all those types of things. In terms of what Updox is able to do kind of across those different solutions, for paperless fax, we had talked about a return of $7,000. For blast messaging, $9,000. For no-shows, as much as $12,500. So we're able to, based on the total investment that you would make in partnering with Updox, we're able to return that investment more than 17 times and just make your work life that much easier by automating some of these more manual processes. As far as how the users are kind of taking it in, we have Carrie Jewett here. We have a handful of customers that have been super helpful both on the designing of workflows, designing of new solutions, feedback on how things are going, areas to improve upon, helping us iterate on the solutions to make them as great as they can be for our users. And what Carrie Jewett has said is that a medical practice is not passionate about technology and not even necessarily about running a business. You're trying to administer care, and what Updox kind of enables her to do is reduce the noise so that they're able to have a really great experience with those patients. And we have a great success story that would be a great read if anyone's looking to read up a little bit more on that. Carrie Jewett's one of our bigger proponents. Marty Holt, again, is another really great resource for us. Dr. Legan as well. So just a couple of names just in case they're in your network and you wanted to reach out to kind of see how they're doing. If you'd be interested in getting started with Updox, we do offer a trial period for all new customers. We are a web-based solution, so there's no hardware, there's no upfront spend. We have no contract, so it's month-to-month service, and we offer free training and free support as well. So a really great working relationship with us as we will work hard to earn your business each and every month and make sure that we're making an impact for the better in your practice.